Mr. Sergeant at Arms, invite the members in and the families into the chamber.
There wasn't even time to take the oath of office for his 11th term. Representative David Copeland was filing his bill again.
I would abolish every tax that exists in this state today, from those state taxes all the way down to the local property taxes. In short, I would boil it down to we would tax nothing but income and sales to generate the same amount of money and prevent change in the future without referendum.
It's a flat rate sales tax on everything and a flat rate income tax on everyone.
A tax system has to be seen as being fair in order to enjoy support of those people who pay the taxes. It's my judgment that the only perception of fairness that can be had is, number one, if it's flat rate, number two, if everybody's treated alike, which means you must go to those common denominators, and that is income and consumption.
Tennessee's tax system is filled with gaping loopholes. Examples: livestock food is tax exempt, but baby food is not. When a mechanic fixes your car, you pay sales tax. But when a dentist fixes your teeth or a beautician cuts your hair, you don't. Copeland wants you to pay a 4% sales tax on everything, from the purchase of a hamburger to the purchase of a house.
The fact of the matter is that for 200 years, we've had people coming to the state legislature carving out their own little nest for favored tax treatment. Every time somebody or some group succeeds in creating his own little niche, the rest of us make up what he's failing to pay.
Copeland is one of the guerrilla fighters in the legislature demanding tax reform. He's not been in the majority, but he has not been alone. In fact, 15 years ago, Governor Winfield Dunn appointed a team to study Tennessee's tax needs.
Among those recommendations was the adoption of a broad-based income tax on the income of the people of Tennessee, and an equivalent adjustment of the sales tax and of the property tax on the public, so that there would be a neutral situation, but one that would be much fairer to everybody.
But Dunn had only 1 year left in office, and in the legislature, income tax supporters were treated like lepers. One of Tennessee's leading economists thinks he knows why.
People like to take home as much income as they can, and they like taxes which are hidden. It's not that you're necessarily paying less money, it's that you don't feel that pain. Whereas when you get that payroll and you take home that check and it says right there, this is how much I earned and this is how much I take home, and you see that difference, and folks don't like it.
Whether it's a property tax or an income tax or a sales tax, any of them can be raised. But what they're missing is, and what they didn't see then, was that a tax on earnings, on income, is the fairest possible way for all of us together to move into the future.
10 years later, Governor Lamar Alexander raised the sales tax and kept the sales tax on food to pay for education improvements. For all of that, Alexander promised tax reform would become a front-burner issue.
No governor has ever taken this strong a position. I mean, Governor Dunn and Governor Blanton also have said things about the income tax, but what I'm doing...
Another special commission studied the state's tax system. In 1985, this committee, like the special committee 10 years before, recommended a state income tax. But Alexander was on TV backing off.
The problem I have with the income tax is that I don't trust politicians with it. I think once we politicians get our hands into your pockets with an income tax, we have a hard time getting it out.
There have been 3 governors since me, and not a one of them has addressed the issue forthrightly and done anything about it. And I think that's a shame, but it's got to come.
If that means increasing taxes in Tennessee state government, I'm not ready to ask for that at this time.
Governor McWhorter has never been a supporter of a state income tax. In fact, he said during his campaign for governor that people don't like it and Tennessee doesn't need it. But even he does not rule out the possibility of an income tax to lower the Tennessee sales tax.
Our rate is high, and I acknowledge that our rate needs to be lowered, but more than anything, it needs to be taken off of necessities, food particularly.
And how would you make up that 1%?
Well, I'm not prepared at this time to recommend a change, but if in the event I were to be governor of Tennessee, when the time comes to recommend reform, then I would recommend reform through implementing a tax on income with an exemption up to $20,000 a year.
That is a strong indication that McWhorter will wait until a second term, if there is one, to suggest an income tax. His old rival, Winfield Dunn, says waiting is no answer.
Oh, sure. I think he can wait for a second term. I think he could wait for a third term. But the problem is what's going to be on the conscience of any leader who fails to address what realistically exists. When I was running for governor the second time, I refused to say no income tax because I couldn't predict what 4 years would bring. I think the leadership of the state at this time has an enormous moral responsibility to do what's right.
But I think we don't have, as a legislative body, the political courage to take on the task.
No matter how the political winds blow, there are a handful of crusaders like Copeland who keep the tax reform fires burning. They're beginning to feel that their day is near.
And despite the fact that many legislators privately will agree with the fact that it's got to be changed, the justification is, yes, it's got to be changed, but if I don't get back here, I can't help change it. Therefore, my first responsibility is to come back here. Thus, avoiding that unpleasant but inevitably necessary confrontation.